The entire video game industry at the moment is suffering from a new trend. It's called artificial intelligence, and I'm pretty sure you've heard of it. AI in its many forms has been incredibly popular and on the rise ever since it hit the mainstream. More and more people use ChatGPT as if it were Google every day. For some reason, a lot of older people. Tech gurus are in love with convincing people that animation is dead and artistry is too, because now AI can make anime episodes or new shows all just by using text prompts. And the video game industry isn't immune to this either. Generative AI has arrived, and pretty much every single company that you can think of within the video game space, especially the bigger ones, believe that AI is the future. And they are all trying to figure out a way to embrace it, to empower the games that they make, and definitely not in order to cut costs and maximize their profit margins. Generative AI is now everything. We're currently experiencing a market crash with PCs, specifically around things like RAM units, much like we saw with the crypto craze. And it's all thanks to generative AI. NVIDIA keeps talking about how much they are focusing on AI and how NVIDIA GPUs are the future and the best commodity in the world because it's the one place where every single AI model can be used. I guess that's why in a recent financial call, they reminded us all that they are no longer a gaming company. They are an AI data center infrastructure company, which of course means they're so incredibly aligned with their customers, because when I buy a 5090, sure, maybe I could play Black Myth Wukong in 4K at 120 FPS, but really, I'm just thinking about that sweet infrastructure, brother. But when one of the cornerstones, a pillar within gaming tech, says that they're an AI company first and a gaming company maybe, I think the writing's on the wall of where the industry wants to head towards. From EA to Activision Blizzard to Ubisoft to Krafton to Nexon to PlayStation, pretty much every big player in the space has said that they want AI as the future. And the companies that haven't said anything are, well, that's the thing, right? They haven't said anything either way. Many of them are playing it safe and slowly gauging where the public interest is and if there is acceptance for the technology before making any rash decisions. But that doesn't mean that behind closed doors, they're not already experimenting with it. And slowly, as the conversations regarding artificial intelligence become more commonplace and more mainstream, we are slowly being manipulated and lulled into a sense of security to embrace AI, to view it as normal, to view it as a replacement for the things that we had before generative AI. We are being constantly manipulated because these companies have a vested interest in this future. Meanwhile, the technology of AI keeps getting better. Look at these two images. They're both generated by AI. Yeah, I'm serious, including the one on the right. If we zoom in a bit, you can see that the table makes no sense and that this guy's fingers are completely wrong. But at first glance, it kind of looks real, doesn't it? So as it gets more and more convincing, they're going to stop telling us anything, and things are going to be AI and we won't know it. Or at least we won't know it at a glance, and a lot of people will be fooled by it. And the biggest problem is that I fear this isn't just a fad. This won't be like NFTs. This isn't something that's going to fail and disappear because AI is very broad. It's not just about generative AI. AI can be applied in many different ways. Some of them arguably very good and non-destructive and non-harmful to both end products and markets and environments. But of course, those good uses of AI, those that actually do democratize tools, aren't the ones that companies want. They want the ones that save them money. But because the topic is so broad, what they want is to convince people that AI good and you should love it. Every day the conversation becomes a little bit more brazen, the more topics come up about it. It's not just about Call of Duty using AI for their assets, despite having a gigantic team to make assets. It's also about the more complicated, more gray parts of the use of artificial intelligence, like for example, Embark with Arc Raiders, paying voice actors who agree to sign on to the project with the intention of having their voices used to train AI, allegedly in the name of expediting the process in what would ideally be of benefit to both the studio and the voice actors, who would continue to get paid every time their voices are used for new voice lines, without the need to go into the recording booth again. The specifics of those deals, unfortunately, aren't very public, and in my opinion, the quality that we get from those is not good, like at all. But the more that these conversations take up a spotlight, the more we get things like Anno 117 Pax Romana by Ubisoft, which was caught using AI assets in its art. Ubisoft promptly apologized for this, but that's just because that wasn't the plan. They're still using AI. They used AI within the development of the game, and Ubisoft themselves are developing entire new games that are centered around AI, at least in R&D at the moment. What I'm trying to say is that these people are pushing very hard. But what is most alarming about all of it is an interview that the CEO of Nexon, which is the parent company of Embark, gave to Japanese publication GameSpark, in which he said that it's very important to assume that every studio out there is using AI. While he caught a lot of flack for this, especially given the current climate of the conversation, I think it's also important to stop and actually read what he said. He's not using it as a threat. He's not using it as a way of conditioning us to accept AI. He's warning us that we should be more aware of what we're getting ourselves into. He's telling us that we don't know what's actually happening behind the scenes. And it's because of all of these things that I want to talk about artificial intelligence today. I want to talk to you about all of the different companies that are planning to use it and how they want to use it. I want to talk about the motivation behind that use and the very dastardly ways that they intend to condition us to accept it. And at the end of it all, and if you're gonna skip throughout the chapters down here in the video at any point, make sure you watch the last one, because I want to talk about what we can do about this. Because never forget that at the end of the day, we as customers hold the final say, no matter how much they try and convince us that we don't. Today's topic is pretty serious, and it's going to be a bit different from the usual stuff. I think it's going to be pretty controversial for some people because I'm going to be talking about some stuff that people just don't want to hear right now. But I feel very fortunate that I get to think about these things and talk about them here on the channel, and that's all because of the support that you guys give me. So, hi, I'm Mug, and if you're new here, welcome. And if you're not new here, welcome back. It's great to see you. You're looking fantastic. You're looking human-made. Only 5 fingers. Speaking of which, none of the thumbnails for this video are actually AI. It was just a very large effort in making real images look AI generated, and we had 3 different thumbnails for this video floating around. So if you liked one more than the other, let me know below. And speaking of liking things, if you do like this video, hit the like button. It helps the video spread out through the YouTube algorithm, because every day we are literally fighting against AI slop. And if you like the way that I cover video games, the industry, and a lot of the topics surrounding it, maybe consider subscribing, but you can do so towards the end of the video. Make sure that what I do is worth your time, because you don't have anything more valuable than that. I'm going to say the thing now. Let's get into it. When I say that every company that you can think of is using AI in some capacity, that's not an exaggeration. If there's anyone that might be safe from it, it's Nintendo, but that doesn't actually have anything to do with their ethics or principles. It has to do with how quiet they are. Both Hauser brothers are talking about how they want to use AI. Ubisoft has said that AI is the biggest revolution in video games since the invention of 3D, and EA has already put into practice and showcased some uses of AI in a now infamous presentation where they did text-to-game. You know text-to-speech and you know text-to-image, but what about text-to-game? Look at this maze of cardboard boxes for an FPS that they did a demo of. When I look at these cardboard boxes, I feel the same elation that I did the first time I walked into Princess Peach's castle and jumped through a painting in Mario 64. When my tiny mind was blown by the fact that I could move in every direction, same feeling, man, looking at these cardboard boxes, I swear. Ubisoft, by the way, very much towing the line of apologizing for their AI assets in Anno 117, while at the same time announcing their new R&D project called Teammates, in which you have an AI teammate called Jasper. And I quote, "Teammates now puts our non-playable characters in a more traditional gameplay setting, a first-person shooter with new advanced AI features that allow them to respond dynamically to real-time voice commands and adapt their behavior to each situation, revealing distinct personalities along the way. They'll react naturally, adapting to player strategies, moods, and even personal slang for an experience that feels unprecedentedly responsive. And they can interpret player intent and tone, as well as environment cues to generate fluid context-aware reactions, deepening immersion and player agency." Narrative director Virginie Moser said, "Our role is to give AI meaning, to narrativize it, ensuring logic doesn't replace soul. We design Teammates to leave space for player creativity, finding the balance between emotion and unpredictability." Doesn't this all sound exciting and cool? Hey guys, we're putting souls into AI, whatever that means. Well, all this ambitious mumbo-jumbo starts to fall apart really quick when you look at the actual uses of Jasper. It recognizes the player by name, helps with onboarding, understands the game's lore, and can highlight threats or key objects in an environment. And it can also remind players of mission objectives, suggest next steps, and generally act as a tactical guide when they are unsure what to do next. Congratulations, guys. They've made yellow paint with Gen AI. We've come a very long way from Peter Dinklage telling you about wizards on the moon, huh?
The Hive haven't been on Earth in centuries. That wizard came from the moon.
But really not that far. The Teammates division has also built an application programming interface, or API, that abstracts the complexity of generative systems, embeds necessary guardrails, including hallucinations, bias, and toxicity, among others, and helps control its power to put it at the service of human creativity and play. Which means that because they've worked so hard on all of these guardrails, instead of 12 hours, it might take 2 days for Teammates to recommend somebody to jump off a roof because they do indeed fly. A whole lot of mumbo-jumbo for just creating a new tutorial character that kind of talks back to you. Great. Everybody loves Navi, so let's just make her a bit more annoying, huh? But the reason I'm really showing you all of this from Ubisoft is because they are pushing hard. They believe that AI can be the basis of entire video games, despite the fact that what they're using the technology for is not really anything revolutionary. It's a very incremental step over something that we've already had, and that with scripted measures can even work better with a story. But now they want to turn NPCs into sandboxes? Damn the innovation or the game mechanics, the level design, the feedback of play. That doesn't matter. You can speak into a microphone, and the weird AI of their new weird online-only games, because they need to connect to the servers to have the AI work, they speak to you now. If you're convincing enough, you might just even sit down with them to save the world while chatting about how much you hate your boss. Ask it nicely and it'll treat you like a little baby.
Hi, I'm Jasper. Please press A to mantle. I know you've had a very difficult time at work today, but we do need to save the world.
If it feels like an episode of Black Mirror, sorry to say this, Black Mirror stopped being science fiction like 2 seasons ago. Companies want you to interact with AIs in games, they want to make those games using AI, and they want the production of those games to hopefully be done with AI. Everything should be generative AI. Everything should be feeding a machine, things that other actual humans have made, and having it interpret in its own weird and twisted way an outcome lightly guided by what you say to it. And if it were just Ubisoft, it would be easy to disregard this, because they already did this with NFTs, so you could easily say that no successful business would actually go all in on this. But the problem is that we're seeing this across the board. And if you think that AI is only meant to be used in these small fractions, these experiments, or for repetitive, menial tasks that are easily replaced by a robot, you're wrong. We are giving more and more responsibility to artificial intelligence every day. Out here in the world, we're letting AI handle meetings and bookings. We're letting it handle important stuff like healthcare, basically anything with a spreadsheet that can be automated. We're even leaving the security of children in the hands of artificial intelligence. Companies like Roblox, which have heavily invested into AI in the past and are now under fire for not being a very safe place for children, which wouldn't be a problem if their primary demographic weren't, well, children, are under fire not just because their CEO doesn't know how to respond to all of these problems, but because they're actually encouraging a future where people use AI to make games and the limits on those games don't exist. They've said that dating games on the platform would be interesting and appropriate for kids, and they've recently said that introducing kids to gambling in a way that's educational could be very fun and interesting. So now you have a platform that feels unsafe for children, in which they can date each other and gamble. Okay, but how on earth are we protecting them from potential predators? Don't worry, we've implemented a new AI system that estimates people's ages to protect the kids. That way, they can gamble and date, completely safe. Roblox. Just wait until we start giving kids access to chatbots that allegedly have guardrails. Ooh, that's gonna be fun. If they're willing to leave these sorts of tasks to AI, how long do you think it's gonna take before they just leave things like level design, texture work, character design, voice acting, all sorts of things to AI? How long until our video games become completely soulless? just because they want to pump out more video games for a lower cost. But what is the real reason they want to push AI this hard? It's definitely not for the benefit of the customer, we know that for sure. That's what history has taught us. So what is the underlying motivation? Well, in case you were wondering, it's to make money. Quick refresher on the video game industry in the last years. Ever since around 2018 with the live service boom, a lot of companies discovered that live service games are incredibly profitable. Sure, you have to invest quite a lot of money into the base game, but once you release that game, especially if you do so for free, you have a gigantic player base willing to spend money on games that don't really require that much more money to just craft things like new cosmetics. Especially with the way that the human brain works, we are wired to be willing to spend money on things that we spend a lot of time on. So they designed all of these live service games to be as time-consuming as possible. From daily rewards to daily missions to season passes. And once you've sunk in enough hours, you feel like it's something you should do to just spend some money on it. That led to unprecedented profits, and especially during the pandemic and the chaos that was, we saw gaming spike and a brand new demographic of gamers appear. From new generations to people that just started accepting video games for what they were, be they on mobile, on consoles, or on PC. Everybody was playing video games, and that meant there was money to be made like never before. Shortly thereafter, at around 2022 to 2023, that started to dry up, and while the profits were still stable, the customers started to get tired of it, and the economic downturn meant that they were more stingy with what they spent their money on, and that extends up until today. The problem is that those gold rush days promised the shareholders that the numbers would get greener, that they would make even more money as time went on. And every quarterly fiscal report requires more and more profit. Now that the market is stabilized and it's not infinitely growing, because that's something that I guess they thought that could happen. I don't know what business school they went to, but now that it's settled, the companies aren't growing at the same rate that they were before, so the results are lackluster compared to what people expect. They wanted a continuous trend of positivity that never stopped and made them millions upon millions of dollars, and now it's not growing more, so they just get a stable amount of millions per year, and that's unacceptable. So every publicly traded company right now is desperate to find a silver bullet to solve this problem, to make their profit margins bigger than ever, to somehow make the market more willing to spend money on their games. And because the market precisely is finite and you can't expect more and more people to suddenly spend more money on more games, that means that making more of them isn't the solution. That means the only way to increase that profit margin that you have left is to reduce cost. This is the promise that AI offers them. This isn't about replacing redundant workers that are doing repetitive tasks, because those redundant workers probably have the expertise or the ability and knowledge of a company to also be retrained into a more creative field. That's not the point. Companies do things because they want to make more money, and the best way they have right now is to replace everybody they can with artificial intelligence. Every employee that can be gone and replaced, even if it is for a worse result by an artificial intelligence, does inevitably increase the profit margin. And the calculations that they've made internally as to how this is going to work out versus the impact on the quality of the game and what they believe are the amount of people that will still buy it regardless works out for them. I personally don't think people are that stupid. The recent sales failure of Call of Duty Black Ops 7 kind of proves that. But they seem convinced, and they're on a warpath. They believe this is their silver bullet. This is going to save their companies by making those shareholders happy once again. And so they are desperate to make it work, no matter the cost, be that human or the games themselves. The way that they're making it all work and making it all convincing enough for so many people is by slowly exposing people to it. Basically, small doses. For starters, the whole AI infrastructure that sits behind all of this is a lot more expensive than we believe it is. I mean, compared to human workers. It's just that right now, because it's a new thing and what we want most is for everybody to adopt it, that cost is kept relatively low, at times even operating at losses. Do you guys remember how much Netflix was when it came out? Think about how much it is now. That isn't just inflation, that's because when something is new, you want to make it accessible, and then you want to make people depend on it, and then you can raise the prices. Beyond that though, once these companies are all using artificial intelligence, slowly they're going to keep pushing more of that into games, and hoping that people won't notice. When people do notice, they will say something about it or not and continue on their way, but every time that a conversation happens around it, there's going to be people claiming that it's not that bad, people claiming that it's the worst, but we're talking about it, we're witnessing it, and we're seeing it. The industry is so convinced that this is going to work that we have an ex-executive from Square Enix claiming that Gen Z loves AI slop, and that's why it's going to work, because not everybody hates it as much as you think they do. Every time that a fantastic game like Arc Raiders uses artificial intelligence, in its case for those voices, a conversation sparks up about if there is an ethical use of artificial intelligence that is viable, because if the end product is great, what's the harm in AI? Which I will repeat, those voices are the worst part of Arc Raiders. The NPCs sound terrible. But each one of those conversations slowly moves the needle. Every single time that we are exposed to a quote-unquote good use of AI, we're more accepting of it, and they win. But here's the problem. What I just said sounds like AI is the worst thing ever, like it's the devil. And it's pretty sad to say that when something is inevitable, as we've already seen throughout the evidence I've shown you in the video. So is AI really the worst thing ever? Well, no, I don't believe so. And wait, don't get mad at me yet, let me clarify. I think that AI is an incredibly valuable tool, and it can empower humans and workplaces to work better. But that's because AI is a very large term that encompasses a million different uses of technology. I believe that not all AI is bad, but using AI for all of it is terrible, because it's not a substitute for human creativity, for real innovation, for real artistry and inspiration. It is, at the end of the day, a machine that consumes what you give it and spits something that mixes it all up back at you. Using AI for reference pieces, for inspiration, for placeholders can be incredibly useful. There are technologies within AI that are actually kind of revolutionary and do help people. Recently, I stumbled on Twitter across this post talking about an AI that manages to take a video of a person moving and turn that into actual animation data as if it were mocap. And in this case, all that AI really does is substitute an incredibly expensive mocap studio. Won't get you the same results. It's not going to get you performances of people acting in the same way as all of the fancy technology we use for that sort of stuff, but it does make that technology considerably more accessible for people. And in no way does it eliminate the creativity or the need for it. It doesn't make anything for you. All it does is substitute a piece of technology that would normally go in the middle and be prohibitively expensive. There are plenty of uses of personal assistance and data scraping that can be useful in myriad fields that considerably expedites processes and makes people's lives way easier. And at the end of the day, all they are is just programs trained to extract things and somehow type out something that makes sense to us. There are useful applications of artificial intelligence, but in my opinion, there are none right now that can substitute what humans bring. The problem is, as I said before, those positive uses of AI, the ones that could empower people making games, are not the ones that the people who pay their wages want to use. They want to use the ones that outright replace them. But is there a world where AI makes better games than humans? There might be. We can hypothesize that the future will bring technology that's that incredible, but honestly, what we're seeing within the games industry is a shift towards very human-made games that are trying new things at lower prices, that are trying to innovate and bring people experiences that they've never had before. The fact that AI can't really come up with anything new and can only remix the things that you give it means that it's destined to fail in how the market is currently evolving. But that's why they won't stop. I hope I'm making it clear that I do believe that there is a way where AI is beneficial to everybody involved. It allows developers to make better games, and it would allow us to enjoy those games. It could reduce the costs of video game production, and those savings could be passed on to the customer, making the entire thing more accessible and essentially bringing more joy to everybody. And I especially like to believe those things are possible considering how inevitable AI feels, but I just don't believe that anybody wants to use it that way. And if they ever do, it's going to be as per usual within the indie scene, and it will be accompanied by some very difficult conversations about it. AI, at the end of it all, is a tool. I tend to say that a needle can save a life in a hospital and it can endanger one in an abandoned apartment block. It's all about how you end up using it. But currently what we're seeing with artificial intelligence is that it's being used as if it were going to save humanity or as if it can replace human workers. And I just strongly believe that in creative fields, that's not really possible. At least not at the moment, and not with what it's capable of doing. Maybe one day it'll be an invaluable tool for people to be even more creative, but that's not where we are right now. We are being manipulated into believing that it is that capable to cut costs. Because that's all that generative AI is, at least at the moment. And I understand its appeal. Sometimes you just need to get something done, and pretty much anything will suffice. It's a quick and dirty way of patching things up, but at the end of the day, it doesn't replace humans. It's just a facsimile of things that humans have created. It's a cheap imitation of what actual humans can do. And while I understand that some people will use it, I do believe that afterwards you're gonna feel hollow, empty, and a bit dirty. Basically, what I'm saying is that AI is like a fleshlight. Funnily enough, consent is a big issue with generative AI as well. A lot of the data that is used to train these AI models isn't done so with permission from the original creators. But it's the way that they want things to work, because it's the way that's going to give them the most money, and that's why it's so complicated. It's a big topic with a lot of stuff going on, and that's why we need to do something about it. For my money, the most important thing that we can do right now is demand disclosure. One of the key reasons I think that big companies in AAA have been failing so much in gaming is because the bridge between the people who make the art and the people who buy it has been broken for a pretty long time. Communication and transparency are gone, and they don't even understand what it is that their customer base wants from them. The only thing that AI does at the moment is instill an even bigger paranoia within us, the customer, making us feel like we can't trust pretty much any company anymore. Are they using AI or are they not? What are they using it for? Is this something that I would be willing to listen to understand, to respect, or to even support monetarily? I tend to say on this channel that an informed customer is a smart customer, and we can't be informed if they refuse to inform us. As customers, we actually hold the power, and if we demand these people to tell us what they're using AI for, in what way, and what the costs of it really are, we can then make an educated decision on what we are willing to support and what we aren't. We can draw the line and then draw our own conclusions, but currently, they're not doing that. We don't know what they're doing, and there is in many cases absolutely no requirement for companies to tell us anything. Sure, Steam asks developers to disclose if they use generative AI or not, but that doesn't mean they have to. Call of Duty doesn't until it gets caught every year. They're doing everything they can to get away with it all. According to Epic Games' Tim Sweeney, no games should have to disclose if they use AI because in the future every single game will use it, so it's a waste of time. And I prefer to say that it's up to the customer if it matters to them or not, and having it there does matter. Even if the Epic Games Store, the ever so popular Epic Games Store, doesn't require anybody to disclose anything, I don't think that's the way we should view things. But we as customers hold the power. If we demand these answers and we don't get them, we can just not buy these products. We can just tell these companies that we won't until they do. We can show them that customers aren't dumb. We are smarter than we've ever been, and the sales data backs that up. They need to understand that without us, they're nothing. If an artist makes beautiful art, but nobody's there to play it, does it even make a sound? Wait, that's not it. At the end of the day, I'm not the arbiter of what's right or wrong. And I believe that you should be the arbiter of what's right or wrong for you. But if we don't have the information, we could be unwillingly supporting or not the future of our industry. You could be giving the go-ahead to more and more AI without knowing it because they don't disclose it. Or you could be failing to support developers that are actually championing what you really want because you don't know which is which anymore. If the relation between us, the customer, and them, the game makers, has been broken for a long time, this is what could make it broken beyond repair. This is a time for transparency. This is a time to make our voices and our wallets heard. So if you are afraid of what they are doing with AI, how they are treating people, or what shady stuff they're going to get up to while disrespecting you as a customer and trying to feed you slop, you better fucking act now. Don't let these people get away with replacing humans that want to make something great with machines that actively steal from the people who made things. I stand for a lot of things on this channel, but for me the most important ones are that I want great people to make excellent video games that we can all enjoy together, and I want those video games to be respectful of customers. I feel like buying video games made by machines goes against both of those things. It's disrespectful to actual talent that wants to make something new, and it's disrespectful to us by expecting that we'll lap up anything that they throw at us. So don't let them get away with it. A very extra special thanks to the members of The Wall, be they patrons or members here on YouTube that directly support everything I do with their hard-earned money, which is kind of crazy. But it's thanks to them that I can end up re-recording this video 4 times now. It's not been an easy video, but you know, they help a lot with that. Life can be incredibly short, and you should enjoy every minute of it that you can. You should be happy and get to indulge in experiences that make you smile, laugh, cry, that make you feel alive, that make you feel human connection with people that wanted to communicate something to you. So please, today more than ever, go out there, enjoy some great video games, and I'll see you again very soon.